Let's go ahead and get started. So welcome everybody to Yes and AI, how agents join your team from Q&A bots to crisis-ready agent teams, a hands-on roadmap. Um, my name is Erin Streck. I am NetHope's Senior Manager for Philanthropic Partnerships, and I'm joined here today with an amazing panel, Jivtesh Singh and Laura Rubio, who will be giving you a fantastic overview of some amazing AI usage and sharing some exciting things that they have been working up. Just before we dive into that, I'm going to do just a little bit of housekeeping and then hand the microphone over to them. So for some housekeeping, just as always, this is a private conversation hosted for NetHope partners, supporters, and friends. So operating under the Chatham House rules to ensure that attendees can share and participate and dialogue in a supportive atmosphere. Um, and just making sure everyone knows this is a nonpartisan space. Let's please keep the space safe for honest dialogue, and by respecting the privacy of organizations and individuals. Again, as everyone's joining, if you could please change your Zoom name to your full name and organization. Um, I think that you all are on mute, but we encourage you to use the chat for any questions. Um, Please drop any questions that you have in the chat as well as in the Q&A. Nishina and I will be monitoring that um, as the webinar goes on, just to make sure those chats are being and those questions are being answered. And also, as we said, we are really excited. There's a lot of people joining us today. We anticipate a really lively and engaging conversation, but we also just want to flag. We want to try and make sure we're keeping that conversation respectful and on target so that this is a safe and productive space for everyone. So we'll be monitoring that chat to make sure any questions are answered. The webinar will be recorded. And as a policy, we don't allow any AI note takers. So Nishina and I will be going through and making sure that there's no note takers. And finally, just thank you so much for everyone for coming today. We're really excited. We have a really fantastic webinar planned for you. So with that, I'm going to hand the mic over to Jivtesh and Laura, who will introduce themselves and dive right into it. So thank you both.
Incredible. Thank you. I'm going to start sharing my screen here now. And super excited to be here, Jagdish from Microsoft. And I'm here with Laura. Laura, do you want to quickly introduce yourself as well?
Hey everybody, Laura Rubio here from UNAIDS, joining you from very sunny Bonn in
Yeah,
Germany.
and I'm joining from Geneva, which is also, yeah, a little bit sunny, probably slightly lesser than Bonn. So over the next 55 minutes, we want to take you from this journey where agents feel less like a threat and more like a scene partner. And Laura and I want to bring in the vibe. We catch up, every few months and try and update each other on how we are keeping track of AI because it's so much is happening the entire time and we learn a lot from each other. So let's start off with where we are right now, right? So we see quite a few people in the audience today here, and in the sector for the last few years, there is, workload is increasing, funding is shrinking. This seems like, since COVID has been the a trend we are seeing, and we are being asked to do more, right? Most people I meet, including myself, if you ask me, most weekdays I'll say I'm so tired. And AI was supposed to help, right? Technology in general was supposed to help. We could do the summary of documents, write emails, but actually, what you have to do on a day-to-day basis is not just write emails and read reports. You have to figure out the gaps. You got to email different people based on the context that is coming up. So smarter search and AI assistants were a good start, but we actually need AI that does things. So Laura and I thought that let's try and explain agents to you guys in the form of improv, which I love. And I asked Laura, and she said, "Oh, is this the? What did you think about improv, Laura?"
I thought that I've seen this in New York, and I've always been a little scared to join because you don't know what's going to come at you. But I think that's also part of the fun.
There we
So on
go.
this topic, that's very exciting. I am totally with
And
it.
And there we are now in front of like 100 plus people. We're doing an improv show together. So we want to explain AI agents, which is an agents are pretty much AI that can take action and can reason and plan and do things. And we're going to start to show you agents. But think of agents as your troop, right? So you're going to perform a scene. You have various agents that can listen to what you're doing. You set the scene, you stay and in the center stage, but they help do all the tasks that you don't like doing. I think we've discussed before that we love to use AI for things that we don't like doing rather than AI to do things which we love doing. And there's a balance there, right? So in improv we say yes and to everything, and the same thing with we're trying to bring that same balance when you're using agents on a day-to-day basis. So you, as a non-profit specialist, you bring in your context, your empathy, your final judgment. And then you've got these various agents that are good at routine tasks, at formatting documents, at creating these documents in how your donors want it, right? So all of those work together. So
Interesting.
with
So
that,
I add
yeah,
something to this also, which is
of
that
course,
if in as far as you bring all of this, the context, the strategy, the more you do that part, the less generic the output is going to be. So otherwise, it's a concern we hear a lot. When it's so generic, if you use AI, it totally shows, and in the end, we all have the same. But as long as the more you use this, the I think the better your output and your results are going to be.
exactly. Otherwise, someone writes bullet points, they ask AI to write an email on the basis of bullet points, and then another person on the other side is summarizing those same email back to bullet points. Spot on. So we promised to cover like 5 levels of AI agents, and we'll have 3 demos for you here as well. We'll start off with basic level one, knowledge-based agents. That's where Laura, as an HR specialist, ended up creating an agent, and we were all pretty impressed by her journey there. And then we'll go with additional levels of complexity, workflow agents, specialist agents, AI, and agent teams as well. And we'll give you examples on all of those. But Laura would love to, hear how did you get started on this journey on agents? Did you know what agents were before, when you started to build out your first agent?
No, no, not really. I was using a lot the chat, so just trying to start to explore how the AI works and fantasizing with it, doing, as you say, the work I don't want to do. So fantasizing all the way to the robots ironing in my clothes and all that stuff, which I absolutely cannot do. And I came across a course on Masterclass. It's a platform where there are lots of courses. I'm sure there's many others on this topic that are free, but this one's the one that I watched. I can put the link on the chat if folks are interested. And basically, they were explaining what the agents are, how you can create them, and just very basically, how do you do that without being a tech expert, which I am not. And it looked intriguing, so I kind of got excited and thought, oh, what can we use this for? And started to play. How about
Yeah.
you? Was that
Yeah.
similar?
I think similar, a lot of playing around with it ever since this new Gen AI wave came out. But I really enjoyed the masterclass session as well. Someone gifted masterclass to me a few years ago, and then it keeps auto renewing. So I end up watching a course. Steve Martin has a nice little course there as well. With that, like I love your two use cases, and this this particular topic with the restructuring that's happening across our development sector is comes up a fair bit. Would love to hear your how you started to think about this institutional knowledge agent.
Yeah, absolutely. So for us at my organization, UNAIDS, we went and are still going through a big change, especially last year. A huge loss of budget, which translated into a very big loss of expertise. Lots of colleagues who left us. So there were two things. On the one hand, I was trying to figure out ways to use these tools to help the colleagues themselves, the individuals who are leaving or who are exploring leaving. And then on the other hand, trying to see what we can do as an organization to make sure that I don't know, we preserve and we keep some of what they have worked so long for, and then all the wisdom that they have accumulated and the know-how. So I ended up making two agents. I mean, I have way more agents, but two agents that I want to show you. And I'm going to start with the simplest one. So I'm going to share my screen if you'll allow me. I think it's easiest to just demo it for you.
Yeah, love it.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, I see resume created by Laura Rubio.
Okay, wonderful. So basically, the idea of this one is, so this is the agent that I built to help colleagues who were transitioning to different jobs or exploring doing different jobs. It's an agent that helps you review your CV and your cover letter and helps you draft it. And it can help you also compare it to a job you're wanting to apply to so that it can help you find gaps. So what have you not addressed in your CV that might be important in the job? It can also do the same for your cover letter. It can help you improve formulations that you make there to match the vocabulary better of the job. And the idea
I
of this one
remember,
was,
Laura, you mentioned that a lot of people, who were impacted by these restructurings, they were making their resumes or updating them after a really long time, sometimes like after a decade.
yeah, and also importantly, a lot of us started to look into other sectors to work in, as because of this crisis. I mean, I don't know in how far you're aware of it, but in the UN, there's a huge crisis going on just in general in the system. So a lot of us started to look at different ideas, different alternatives, analyze, could I fit there? And I don't know, would the private sector be something for me or maybe the nonprofit? So this was meant to help people do that, adapt their profiles to that when they're feeling, especially when they're feeling like a little bit unsure of how to do it. It also had another purpose, which was we had lots and lots of colleagues to help, and about 200 colleagues or something. And so the scalability of it also was for
Mhm.
us, really attractive, and the fact that we could make it work in three languages, which are
Wow, okay.
languages of the organization.
So
Yeah.
how
So,
does it work? And could you make a font size a little bit bigger?
oh yeah. How about there?
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. So what you're seeing here is basically the home screen, so to say. This is the link we give people. This is where they go. And the idea is that the tool should be usable for somebody who's not an expert on this, so who doesn't know necessarily how to prompt, right? You don't have to be a prompting expert. You don't have to be an expert in anything. You just have to be able to chat and be willing to try it. And so I'm going to do it in English,
Mhm.
but it's also available in the other two languages. As soon as you prompt it in another language, it changes the output, right? So I'm going to just get started with the first prompt, which is basically help me. And now it's going to tell us how it can help us. So there's the different ways that I mentioned before. So it's helping you with a cover letter, helping you with reviewing the CV, helping you tailor the CV, and things like that. And so what you can do, and this is where I think working with Microsoft and with Copilot especially is great for us, is we can use this environment that is safe for us because our enterprise information doesn't go anywhere.
Mhm.
So we can safely upload files without thinking about what's happening to them. I'm going to upload something that I did, some application that I did a while back, right? So this is the CV that I did, and I'm going to upload as well the job opening.
Ah, right. Okay, so you're uploading your CV and the job opening, and then you're asking it to give you feedback.
That's right. So this is my
Mhm.
CV. That's the job opening. So help me with my application to the job at IFAD, right?
And
This is fast.
maybe Laura, while you're doing this, if Jivtesh, we got a question that might be a little bit helpful as we're doing this. Someone
Mm-hmm.
asking if you could please define the term agent in the
Yeah.
context of AI, since that's a little bit context setting. So I just wanted to quickly jump in and add that question.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Yeah. So an agent, how I explain to my friend's 11-year-old who's writing an AI report is an AI that can take action, that can reason and take action. So in this case, Laura is giving her resume and giving her job description. Based on that, it's able to think through and come up with a process of steps that it has to carry out, and Laura will explain how its brain, so it thinks through and it's able to take an action. In this case, the action would be the output that it's coming up with, the feedback, but the action could be anything like, sending an email or updating another system. Thanks, Erin. Yeah, keep us honest there.
Yeah, see, that's actually a really good question. For this one, what you can think of in terms of how it's built or what it does is pre-programmed prompt.
Yeah.
So basically, I have programmed the prompts into the what is called the agent. So it's kind of like the brain of the thing.
Yeah.
And you tell it, okay, so every time I use this agent or go to this website where the agent is hosted, you're going to take these actions. So you're going to ask me about this, you're going to tell me about that, you're going to use these and these sources. So it's basically giving you consistency across the uses. So when I use this the next time tomorrow, it should
Yeah.
follow the same pattern. So it should give you, I shouldn't have to say much. You saw all I did was ask it this,
Mm.
basically
Mhm.
the beginning, right? And then it should always react in the same way,
Yeah.
obviously customized to what I'm asking. But yeah, I mean, it follows kind of a script. So what it's given me while we were chatting here is the following. I pre-programmed it to tell us not whatever it wants, but give me feedback in very specific on very specific topics or categories. So these are the categories. Writing and readability is the first one. So it's going to tell me how readable is it? Is it easy to read? Is it written well, basically? It talks about, for example, things like action verbs, linkage between
All the way. Yeah.
concepts, right?
Mhm.
Things I could improve. So for example, I talk, I also write, apparently, it's very long sentences, right? So it's like maybe shorten them a little bit. And here gives some examples to make it a little bit more concrete. So it takes something from where I wrote and gives me an idea of how to rewrite it. This is the second category. So it's achievement-oriented statements. So basically, these are things I predefined. So instead of telling it, do whatever you want, give me whatever feedback you can come up with, I told it, okay, give me feedback that you can come up with in these areas. So you can make it basically as free or as, kind of specific and constricted as you want. Then we go into the structure and the organization of the document. This is especially good if you're not really sure if you made it from scratch and then, are not sure what the structure should be. For this one, for example, it's telling me the good things that are working well, some things I should improve. For example, adding a couple 2 bullets at the beginning, to talk about how senior the job could be that I'm applying to. This one looks at external marketability. This is something I added because of what the context that we were talking about.
Yeah, this is new. I haven't seen this part. Yeah, there's a
Oh
lot of
yeah,
updates in this.
that's good.
Yeah.
I mean, for this one, it knows where I'm applying, right? So it kind of
Mm.
gives me the strengths for that organization, which is the good thing. But in general, what this was meant to do is just to tell me, are you using too UN lingo? Is it too UN based, the lingo you're using, or, should you change it? This one looks at the alignment with the job description. So basically, how closely are you aligned? This gives you an idea of, are you shooting very far, or not? Or are you also missing things that maybe you do have? For example, here they want this, which I haven't mentioned. So do I have this skill? Have I done this? Should I add it? That's very important, obviously, with this topic is to make sure that when you're using it, not to just take whatever, suggested additions that it gives you, that this may not be true, like it still has hallucination, but it's actually quite complete, just in general. It's basically the output that it gives you. And then it goes on to recommend some next steps.
Got it.
Um, yeah,
And it can
and
even
that's how
create
you
like
get.
a draft letter for you, and it's telling you the sources of information. That's beautiful. And like for folks who are completely new, we were not planning to show this, but could you show the brain of this a little bit, or just tell people about how that is like?
I can do that. So basically, I'm going to edit it, and you'll see it's super, super, super simple. So that's what I learned in the masterclass course.
Mhm.
And the agent building is pretty similar across different tools, like different
Yeah.
AI
And
platforms. It doesn't
And
vary
while,
much.
while you're doing that, the screen you're at is the co-pilot screen where, on the left-hand side, you have the ability to create agents. And yeah, exactly. Perfect. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So now this is the brain. Excellent.
So
Thank you.
basically, here's the new agent. When you go here, you get an empty one, right? You get to put the name, the description, which is what's going to show up here in the main screen. And this is the magic, basically. It's
Mhm.
so this is where you tell it what it's meant to do, how it's meant to act. If you want to say use this type of tone, be friendly, or I don't know, whatever, be strict,
Yeah.
whatever it is you want to tell it. So you give it all its instructions here. And you can set up also not just review this, review that, but to tell it exactly how to review it. So you can say,
Mhm.
first do this, then do that. You can even give it a script like I have. You may notice that these are things that it gave me at the beginning. So
Mhm.
it's
Exactly.
following
Yeah.
I asked for. So I mean, it's very, very long because I was very descriptive. And
Yeah.
then if you continue down, here's where in the knowledge you can limit or specify things that it should do and keep into account. In my case, I had mentioned I had frameworks. So that
Mhm.
means that when it's giving me feedback, I wanted to use these frameworks. So these I created for myself to say, these are the things you need to give feedback on. What do we consider good? What do we consider great? So these are all things I added in there.
Yeah. Hey, do you want to turn on create the ability to create documents? Because then it can create the
Yeah,
updated.
this
Yeah.
is something that's actually pretty cool. I hadn't really turned it on, but it would be very helpful. This is rather new, no? It's
Yes.
only two
Yes. Yes.
months.
Yeah.
Images we don't need, but you can say, okay, you can turn on images. What's
Mhm.
helpful here also is if you want to limit it more, then mine is kind of free. It's give me feedback. But if you want to make it very, say only answer about this policy, then you can tell it to only use the sources that you
Specific sources,
give
yeah.
it.
And quite often people just wanted to look at, say, your publications or trusted sources. This is great. So what we've looked at here is like, an agent you've created with the instructions, how the users utilize it as well. And then, you were able to share this out with other colleagues. So we will share some labs with you where you can go in and review these sort of agents out or create them yourself, step-by-step guidance. But for now, I think we've got another agent, Laura.
Yes. I'll be fast. I don't want to steal all the time.
No, this
Uh,
is good. This is super helpful.
This one I'm not going to go through like in detail because it's long, but
Mhm.
I'll tell you what it does. The previous one was to support the individuals who were leaving the organization. This one is to support the organization rather. It
Right.
also supports individuals in that when you're leaving an organization, you want to do a handover and it takes forever and ever
Yeah.
to write everything and to meet everybody and you're writing like, a book if you've been there many years. So the idea is
Mhm.
that this will allow you to do two things. One is it will interview you depending on the area of your work. I pre-programmed questions according to each area so that you get relevant, so you get to talk about relevant things that are important to the, so it's not you don't have to invent and start from scratch, when I was a kid, you get
Mhm.
focused on, what you're being asked, which is relevant.
Nice.
And the second one is not to have to type because what it does is it captures dictation.
Mm.
And so basically you can talk like we're talking and the tool will capture. And then what it will give you as an output is transcripts and summaries so that basically you can give that to your colleagues.
Right. So the aim is like, yeah, you might be leaving the organization, so you just open up this agent, you talk to it just like you talk to another human being, set of questions, and then it is able to capture all that information out. And what happens to that information?
So this is what this is what it does. So basically what the tool does, I'm starting it because otherwise it's very slow
Yeah.
while I talk. So what the tool does is it gives you the questions, you answer, and then it's kind of keeping them in memory. And then at the very end, what it does is it gives you your transcript, so exactly what you said, but like all written down. And then it also gives you summaries and some key takeaways for your successor if there's any.
Right.
So this is the start. What it does is it asks you what work area you were in. So I'm going to say yes. This is completely fictionalized. Yeah, obviously this
Yeah.
is not where I'm working.
Mhm.
I am a strategic information officer. So I'm none of these things. And what I'm going to be giving it as info here is completely fictional. So it's dummy information that I've
Mhm.
invented. But just so you get an idea of how it works, and then I can show you the
Mhm.
output so we don't have
Mhm.
to go through all the questions. So it
Mhm.
explains you, and again, this is programmed so that the person doesn't have to know how to work this. So they should
Mhm.
just read the instructions that it gets. Click the microphone, do this, do that, and then we go. So basically, I'm going to say, yes, I'm ready. Okay, and then it's going to start with the first question, right? So the idea of this is listing 5 key skills. So again, here I'm going to invent. So I start the dictation. So my key skills for this job are data analysis and interpretation, because I have collected and analyzed and synthesized complex data sets. Monitoring and evaluation, because I have designed and implemented frameworks to track performance. Strategic thinking and planning, because I have translated data and evidence into strategic recommendations. Data visualization and reporting. So I have communicated insights clearly through dashboards and reports. And finally, stakeholder engagement. I've worked with many teams, partners, decision makers to make sure data was accurate and good. You see, so, okay, I'm going to send it now. I keep talking, but it kind of captures everything I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm gonna
And when I'm
send that.
ready, I just, go to send.
Yeah.
So you'll see, okay, this basically continues. So it gives you the script. So it knows, that it's taken it on.
Mhm.
You know that it's summarized it. You keep going on the second question.
Wow. It put them into categories. That's great.
Yeah,
Hmm.
it's fabulous. Yeah, okay. So basically it goes on like this. It's many,
Yeah.
many questions. So for the purpose of time, what I'll do is I'll show you, this is what it
Yeah.
looks like when it's done. Again, this is all invented. So
Mm.
basically what it does is this is the full transcript in case, I don't know,
Yeah.
I'm gone in 6 months, someone wants to know what I said. They could go in. Also, I could edit it if I said something I should have said, or I
Mhm.
feel like, this is not quite right. And then at the end, we get here 1 paragraph summary, some takeaways for the successor, and then it explains to the user what they need to do, which is upload it and share it to this link that we have internally. And that's really it.
Beautiful. Excellent.
We're
Okay.
getting several questions, so I figured while we were kind of talking about these agents, I could throw a few at y'all.
Sure.
So some questions around maybe the difference between an actual agent versus just advanced prompting. And then a couple questions around like the process. How long did it take you to build the first agent? Who have you deployed it to? Did you run into any technical challenges with Copilot Studio? And then another one, how do you search for agents that others have already created so you don't reinvent the wheel?
Oh, good questions, all of them.
Lots of great questions. So I'll cover some, but Laura, maybe like the process. So first, the difference. You could have done this in a single prompt, like given your resume, for example, and given a job description. Why the agent there? I think that's the first question.
Okay,
You,
so
yeah.
let me go into that. So for me, there were 2 things. If I were doing it for myself, just for my CV, unless I'm planning to actively start applying to different jobs, and I always want for the AI to do the same thing, maybe I would use the chat. But because I was deploying this inside of a corporate environment, and so this was being basically, and that kind of answers the other question, I was deploying it to our colleagues in UNAIDS internally. And so I needed for the output that they get, I need to control some part of it. Like I don't have control of what comes out, but I wanted to make sure that what they're getting as output is as good qualitatively as possible, and more or less aligned to I don't know, principles and tips and things that we know are important and good and aligned to what we've been teaching so far,
Yeah.
and helping people with. So basically, it's the consistency. So making sure that it's what we get out of it is always consistent, so that everybody gets a similar quality output. And the other thing is scalability. So instead of me reviewing everybody's CV, like 100 people's CV, it's basically the scalability. So it's kind of being able to say, okay, here you have it. And instead of you learning how to prompt, and you may have different levels in the organization of savvy, like maybe some people may be great with IT, some people may be not so sure. This seemed like a good solution because the tool can give you, the user, instructions that you can easily follow,
Yeah.
and ask you questions along the way. So
Yeah.
it kind of
So
felt like
repeatability, consistency, and scalability. And then, yeah, a few other things that people had around types of agents. That's where, so maybe Laura, if you stop sharing your screen, I'm going to restart sharing mine and we'll start to talk through the different agents, right? So we were looking at level one agent, and I think someone I just saw had a comment that that's what you can do in a prompt. So now we move over to level two, three, four, five, and you'll see that this is where we add a little bit of complexity, which also means that we need more governance in place as well. So Laura, for your agent, and taking back from where we left off, November in Bonn, you said, okay, now I'm able to create this file, but can it automatically get saved over to a SharePoint site? Or can it send out an email where a person can review it, right? Right now you have to download and do all of that. So that's where the workflow agents come in. And I want to show you an example of, let's say, there's a nonprofit that's getting reports from the field from its implementation partners. They fill it out, and every time, there's some changes that need to happen as part of that. So now in this case, the agent that you built out was internal only, right? That's part of Copilot ecosystem. Now, this agent, because we want implementation partners, is external. So for this, we want to use Copilot Studio. And Copilot Studio allows you to also take a lot of actions. So the agent I'm going to build out is implementation partner submits a report, and then it's available externally. And based on the information that's collected, it sends out an email or creates a document as well. Yeah. So let me share my screen and show you that. Okay, there we go. So I'm inside. First, I'm actually where you were inside Copilot Studio. One of the things I wanted to show you, Laura, was now something you asked for previously. We've got the ability to copy to Copilot Studio from out of the box agent builder. So the agents you built out from Copilot with the new agent thing, now you've got the ability to also take them to Copilot Studio. I remember that's something you had asked for.
yes, I
Yeah.
was a little lost there. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great.
So that's available now. Now let's go to Copilot Studio, right? So there'll be links in the URLs, but inside Copilot Studio now, the agent that you saw earlier on your level one, what it had was a set of instructions and some knowledge sources. Now Copilot Studio is that agent, but on steroids. You can do a lot more in this, right? So if I go in here, I can select my model. So I've got everywhere from the Anthropic models to all the open AI models with different context sizes. So for those of you who are a little bit more technical, you can take things further. Instructions, pretty much similar. Knowledge sources, I have the ability here to add in a lot more additional advanced knowledge sources like Salesforce, ServiceNow, Dynamics 365. And then tools, and this is where it becomes powerful, and why we're moving to level two, where we need a little bit more control, is you've got the ability to add various sort of tools. So I have a tool to create a document, and I have a tool to also send an email out. And all this required was, I just go in and just ask it to dynamically fill things with AI and ask it when to send the email out, that, read a report and then email the program officer. So I
Yes. What is dynamically filled with AI? What does
Oh
that
yeah,
mean?
so it'll figure out what to put in the subject of the email or the body of the email. You could customize this and say that always put in the email that, oh, this is the text that should go in. But in here, I'm going in and just saying that dynamically, once a partner submits a report, based on that, create an email based on the text. Yeah. So more and more, like, I try and let AI do things for me rather than me hard coding things, because then I have to manage them out. So just giving you a lay of the land in
Making it
Copilot
easier for
3.
the user, right?
Sorry?
So you're making it easier for the user, right? It
Yeah,
means like the
exactly.
user has
Because
to do less.
exactly, like the agent that you've built out, for example, now you have to manage and maintain it every month as well, right? So something we've had as an engineer, I've had to think about all my career is how does my software become maintainable in the long run? And that's, something we're trying to do with that, dynamically do with AI wherever possible. So knowledge,
I,
tools,
for example, take what I have,
yeah,
bring it into here,
yes.
and then say at the end, instead of they telling the user, go save your file here, could I
Mm.
say trigger an email that directly goes?
Exactly. So you could just add those email as a tool, right? So you could add that as a tool. You could add create a document as a tool, and then in your instructions, right? In my agent instructions, I put in there that send an email, after you've had a report submission. So the what agentic AI is allowing you to do is you can just ask it to call a tool. What your responsibility as an agent writer is, you add all of these tools to the agent, and then you can just in your instructions in your brain you tell it when to call those individual tools. So what does this agent do? So let me show you just a couple more things. So one, I wanted to publish this agent out externally. So I can publish this out as a web app, right? And then there's all, of course, security in place. It's asking me, telling me about the risks that I have in place, that I have to take care of that, because now I'm taking actions, right? So I have to be really careful about everything that I do. So now imagine I publish this out, and I'm on the external website where I'm an implementation partner for this nonprofit or UNAIDS, and I say that I have a draft report I need to submit, but I've not written it up, right? And there's a lot I need to do. So just like your agent, it starts to ask me questions one by one. I'm a bit lazy, so I'm just going to give it all the information in one go. I'm going to say that, okay, this is my organization, this is my program, this is my reported period. And these are like rough sort of notes, which normally I have to convert over to a very well formatted report or a document, and send it over to people in headquarters. So now agent in the background, right? So it's of course looking through its instructions. It's figuring out how much does this match with the format that we need it in. And then based on that, it's going to start to create a report. So it says done. Your report has been emailed as well. They'll be able to see the gaps from the report. And what happened in the background was this partner email which just came in at 6:07 p.m. So based on my rough notes, it's mapped it out to key figures, figured out the gaps in there, and told me that, okay, this is the completedness rating as well. And I think it also creates a document as part of that process, just being able to utilize the agentic skills. Yeah. So that's a workflow agent. And I know we've just got 20 minutes, three more levels to go. But any questions on that?
So my question would be, so what you did, all of these things that it did is
Yeah.
basically you have programmed that to those steps to be the for example, the structure you were talking about, it doesn't what structure it needs to have, all of that you've told it in the instructions.
Exactly. In the instructions, just like your instructions in a simple agent builder agent, it's instructions. In my instructions, the only additional thing is I've added tools to it. I've said that call the email tool when you need to send out an email, call the document tool when you need to create a document. That's it. And it's a low code tool. You can pretty much do everything without writing any piece of code. And maybe that's something, Laura, we should remind people. How many lines of code did you write when you said, I programmed these agents?
Zero.
Yeah, it was your natural language, and that's how it's pretty crazy how the world is shifting there, right?
Actually, it was more writing something, testing it, seeing how I like what it's bringing out, and
Mhm.
then going back and saying, no, I didn't like this, changing the instruction there and
Yeah.
back. Than it was anything else. And then obviously a ton of testing to make sure that it was consistent. But other than that, I imagine it's the same with yours.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, that's something I learned very well when you were building your first agent. We were able to get the first agent out in an afternoon, right? And then, but you were like, oh, I don't like this part. I don't like how it compares this. I don't like this part. And that refining those instructions and fitting it in those 8,000 characters is what took a few weeks and where you were constantly reviewing the outputs as well, right?
And can I ask you something?
Yeah.
About, I don't know in how far you've used this in Microsoft, like
Mhm.
widely, how widely you've used it. I noticed that you had the agent send an email kind of independently, right? So you're not really involved in what's happening there. The email sent, whether you want it to be sent or not. And so the question is, how ready is the organization or was the organization when you brought this out? Was there any judgment regarding, oh, look, Jeff just sent me something and it's AI generated? You know, how lazy is
Actually, I'm going to get to that very soon. So in my next demo, Laura, I'm going to answer that question. And I also have a comic for it, actually, as well on that. So next one is specialized AI, right? So level one was, simple agents, repeatable, consistent, scalable. Thank you. You gave a great summary there. Level two is when you start to take actions, you start to use, Copilot Studio. Level three is what has actually existed for a while. Like in my engineering project, 20 years ago, we used machine learning to predict, how images with horses and greenery looked quite similar. And what this is what a lot of nonprofit organizations, and please put it in the chat if you are, a lot of you guys have been using some sort of AI. It could be for predicting hunger, it could be for predicting the next climate disaster, right? So these are specialized AI. And a big misconception which I want to clear out in here is people start to use large language models, GPT or Claude, for very specialized things that they are not good at. So large language models are really good at predicting the next word or the next token. Whereas if you want to predict, like in this case, we had a project with AMREF Health Africa, and where we wanted to take in health surveys and weather and market prices, and based on that, come up with risk scores and alerts. You need a model that's highly trained on that. And Microsoft has Azure Foundry. There's Google, Amazon. Everyone has their own specialized AI models for this. And so, yeah, if you're in the agentic world and you have a specialized use case, I'd encourage you to explore all models, not just large language models. Does this make sense to you, Laura? The specialized
it?
models?
It does, it does. I mean, I haven't really gotten into that, so I'm not really sure exactly how they work. I
Mhm.
actually don't think I have access to that.
Yeah, I think for this, you need to reach out to your data science colleagues or your data engineering colleagues for now. Maybe, in a few years, this will become more accessible with natural language as well. Because yeah, there is a little bit of data cleansing and all of that comes in. But the next level, and now I'll answer your question about, do we automatically send out emails or Teams invites at Microsoft? So I want to move over to level four, which has actually come in slightly sooner than I expected. This is where an agent can do multi-step task execution with human approval. So you describe an outcome, and then the agent can build a plan and execute this, right? And I'm going to show you an example of this. And but first, I have a funny comment to answer your question. For me, when I ask any AI to send an email out or to create even an appointment, I'm very nervous. I don't trust AI to do all of that. I always want to approve that, right? So the process that we work with at Microsoft and we encourage enterprises to do as well is that let AI create the outputs for you, let it plan out for you, but then you always go ahead and put the stamp that I approve this. So what does that look like? Let me show you my next example. Um, yeah, here we go. So now my next example is I've got a field report from, the Sofala province. This comes in, what someone did on day one, day two, day three, their quick thoughts. And following up for this is there's always like I need to figure out if there are any risks in this. I need to figure out recommended action items. And then if it's something really important, then I need to set up an email with my country director. So now within Microsoft Copilot, we've got this new tool called Cowork. You can actually access it from aka.ms/cowork. Laura, this might be already available in your tenant, or it's probably rolling out. So when you open up Cowork, this is where I've now started to just like dictate out a series of tasks. So I'm going to type out these tasks and set them going, and then I'll explain them to you. So I'm asked, oh, I forgot to attach a document. Let me just do that again. So add a document. There we go. I uploaded it earlier. So I'm asking now an AI agent to read this document, number one. Number two, I wanted to create a one-page debrief from this document with three sections: the key observations, risks, and recommended next actions. Number three, I wanted to create an email for me, right, for the country director summarizing what I found and asking for a decision on the budget. And number four, I want to create a meeting with Jitesh Singh to review. I'm actually logged in as Amber right now. I like to, play with different personas. So I'm asking it to do four things, right? And this is where an agent has to actually do a few things. It has to actually first create a plan. What all do I need to do? It has to take the input file that I have, and then it has to, on the right hand side, you see that it started to create an input folder where I can go and review the documents that I'm adding in there. It'll start to figure out what skills it needs, right? So it will probably need the Word skill to create a Word document. It will create a email skill to write an email and then also schedule a meeting as well. But all through I can see what it is doing, right? So first it's reading out the full notes. I can go through and see its search process. It's, extracting the text. It's, figuring out these are the key observations. The main risks I see are, around the seed distribution timeline. And now I'm going to, create a document around this. And then it's saying that, okay, I've got the full notes. I'll resolve the contacts and kick off all the three deliverables in parallel, right? So it'll start first, it's searching for, one of my colleagues, Billy Wester. I asked it to email Billy Wester. So it's searching for Billy Wester in my emails because I didn't give him Billy's email address. At the
So
same
if
time,
it finds the email address, does it also find like context you may have emailed with Billy
yeah.
before? Oh, wow.
Exactly, exactly. So, Cowork, the reason this is so powerful, and for me, this is where I'm starting to feel the AI moment. Just like last year, I had that feeling with the researcher agent, which I've mentioned to you before that I love. With Cowork, yeah, because it has your complete work context. It actually figures out all the emails you've sent out, all the Teams meetings you've had. So, for example, for my monthly now review with my manager, I'm able to say that, okay, look through everything I've been doing and, create a map of what I've been doing and put it in a single slide deck. And it does a great job of doing that as well.
Yes, it's basically like what I've been doing, but like on steroids, right?
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
instead of me having to say each time, I don't know, do this for me, prepare it like this, prepare it like that, and having to give multiple prompts, what this is doing is it's programmed to, always follow this prompt and this process and create already the output that you want. And then you
Exactly.
can, this is a draft, right? Or is it already being sent?
It's a draft, so it's gonna. So once let it continue. I think this is worth it. Spending a few minutes showing this to you. So it will create a document. It'll create a calendar invite, but it'll ask me to review it and approve it before it sends it out. right? And I think there is a place for, Laura, back to like the agents that you've created. There's a place for that because again, that's repeatable. What I'm doing here right now is actually might be ad hoc, something I do once in a while, but it's five different tasks that I carry out.
Right.
But in the future, I will have the ability, like even now. So while it's doing that, I'll go over to where I ran this in the past. Um, Here, yeah, I think it was here. So what I did was I finished, asked it to create these documents. It did that, and then I said that, can you actually create an app for this, and can you make this a repeatable process for me? So then it created a schedule for me wherein every single week it runs the same prompt, right? So it can do the same thing. And from a technology perspective, we spin up a secure session for you with your authentication, Laura. So it'll use your email and everything else because you want to make sure that it's the right authentication in place. So you could do this in a repeatable way. And then it can also do things like I even asked it that, hey, this is great. Can you also create an app for me to train field agents to record the missing sessions? Because ultimately I'm filling in a gap here, which is that every time there's some information missing. So can I actually create an app around that? And then it actually ended up, this process took about 10 minutes, but it created a app where people can come in and track this information out as well. And then I could publish this out. Meanwhile, it's still running in the background. It's drafting an email. So the email will probably go into my drafts like this. So it's sitting in my drafts. It's not sending out an email. And it does say in here that, sent by cowork if I was to just, come in and click send. But I like to, I'll go in and review and edit it out. And then the same, it's carrying out the same process for creating a document. It's creating the debrief. I think we're running out of time, so I'll just show you the document that was created in the output folder. There we go. So key observations, risks to escalate, and the recommended action items. So super, super powerful. Ever since I got access to this, I have pretty much, it's become my go-to for every single thing. Okay, so let's go over and yeah, sorry,
Oh,
go ahead, Laura.
no, just saying that it's really exciting to see
Yeah,
what other things, can we possibly offload to
yeah,
the I think that's something that we get asked a lot. It also is like about, like what's ethical, like with the ethical use. I saw that you had the signature with, okay, this was made with Copilot, right? And what are ways to use it responsibly?
yeah. So yeah, let me just wrap out this level five, and then yeah, we can close off with that as one of the questions. So level five final and where we're going in the future, and is where agents talk to each other, right? So imagine your resume agent, cover letter reviewer agent can talk to the knowledge link agent. So when someone comes in and says that, hey, I'm about to leave the organization, uh, and they put in their prompt that I might also need help with my resume, it is able to call that agent or suggest that agent out as well. So agent suggestions are coming to our platform with governance, but you could build this out right now with multi-agent orchestration. And I've got a lab for this in the handout. I think it's aka.ms/nethopeai, where we've got a lot of labs for you guys. Um, we'll we'll share that with you. So I think, oh yeah, here we go. Here's the link for that. So I'll leave this up and maybe we'll take the next few minutes for questions. Starting with the question, Laura, you brought about responsible AI.
Yeah, for us also the bias, if you could like add a couple of things. I can say from my side what we did, but I think it would be great to
Yeah.
hear what you
Actually,
have.
I would love to hear from you because HR is probably where, quite often we get asked the most number of questions that you have to be really careful. So how did you overcome those challenges and what
Yeah,
did you
we
do?
get asked a lot of things. One of the main concerns is where does the data go and like how safe is this? And thankfully we today vary.
Mhm.
So we're not using I'm not using a free license or a personal paid license somewhere else. I'm using an environment that's inside of our corporate,
Yeah.
licenses. And so the data doesn't really go anywhere. So that kind of ticks off the first concern. With the bias, is a little more nuanced.
Yeah.
So what we've done is I learned from another colleague whose webinar I went to. They had built a bias identificator prompt.
Right.
So basically, it was a prompt they always used when they had the AI do anything. They were like running this bias prompt through the app and to say, okay, so with what you just gave me, can you please check for, I don't know, gender biases, this kinds of biases, whatever, right? So a number of things that they had tested, which works pretty well. And in our case, our audience was basically all around the world. So we had literally like all around the world people speaking 3 different languages. So we had a lot of people test it and give us feedback. And that's kind of how we've addressed several of the things that could have, potentially been a problem. And also in the end, something that we always say is that be mindful. This is not, a human. Even humans have biases, but like this is not a human, so you need to be mindful and read what you're getting and not just blindly accept whatever comes out.
Yeah.
So just use it as the first draft and a partner, and then, go from there and go yes and.
Yeah, yes, I yes, and I love all of that, and I think your situation organization was especially touching because you were suddenly faced with huge amounts of workloads. You had to kind of use technology to, and you were trying to help people out who needed the help around that. So I think there's a nice balance in there. So one, put technology in the hands of people like you did, like, have end users, people speaking Spanish and French, test this out. And at the same time, from a technology perspective in Copilot Studio, now you can add evaluation sets, synthetic data to test out for biases, right? So you have tools available, but it is something. This technology is, evolving so rapidly. I think I created this comic, which is because most of us feel like we are really behind. Everyone else is quite far ahead, but we're all figuring this out. We like to joke in the technology world now that we are actually building a plane as we are flying it, right? So there's a balance of making sure that people in the development sector don't get left behind. Make sure that it's in the access on the hands of everyone. That's why I think Copilot Chat, for example, is available for everyone for free with Microsoft 365 your licenses, and then you can build simple agents for free in that, which are grounded in public websites. So for example, the first version of your knowledge, not the knowledge agent, the first version of your CV review agent could be done just with the free Copilot license. And then when you want to take advantage of things like your knowledge graph, then you need a paid Copilot license, or you can move over to a consumption model as well. So
Um, oh, sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to flag that we're just at about time. We are at time. And we have lots and lots of questions that were coming in through Q&A and through the chat. I tried to capture some of those. And maybe we can figure out some way when we share out the resources to maybe address some of these questions that we got, because lots of them were really great. I don't know if there's maybe one point that the two of you want to close on, or one kind of question to close on, because we're right at time. And I'll also just share for the audience. Now, we'll be sharing out a lot of links. Most of the things that were referenced today will be shared out in the slides as well. So those will definitely be coming your way. But so yeah, maybe I'll hand the mic back to you all for a closing remark or two.
So from my side, two things. So yeah, I think Joel has shared a link. It's also on this page. It has Laura and my LinkedIn in there. It has lots of labs. So please reach out to us. It might take a long time before we respond, but always happy to get feedback, especially if you like the improv, yes, and references. Please tell me. I hope at least one or two people tell me they like that. And then the second thing is that uh, AI is here, like electricity, right? And people in the development sector, I'm really passionate that people in the development sector need to take advantage of this. So go experiment. Whatever tools you have access to, go experiment with it. Be the next Laura in your organization.
That's very nice. I think what I would like to say is, for me, what worked, the one thing that changed the way I have worked with these tools, with any of these tools, is actually yes and. So it's whatever the AI has given me, I rarely ever take it as the final say. I always kind of prompt it further. Even if it's an agent, sometimes I just go in and say, "Oh, and what else? And what else can you tell me? And can you make this more specific?" And so I think that in the end ends up generating you great outputs. So I'd say, yeah, just experiment a lot and just try to interact with it as much as you can, so you understand better how it works.
Thank you.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much to everyone for joining. Thank you so much, Laura and Jitesh, for sharing just this wealth of knowledge. And as I said, so many questions. It was such an engaged conversation. I think people really enjoyed that. So I will try and we can figure out a way to share when we share the slides, maybe sharing some key questions that stood out or something like that, so we can try and get some of those addressed. But in the meantime, thank you so much, everyone, for coming. And thank you again, Laura and Jitesh, for sharing your knowledge with us today. And yeah, I'm excited to see what comes from this. Hopefully, as someone said, lots more Lauras, be the Laura of your organization.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
coming.